$75 for the older generation, and the newer generations, which the old one is getting very hard because Apple said we're going to quit making because they got these fancy new ones that everybody needs to have. So they run 125 to 150 depending on the model you buy. We're getting the older ones as much as we can. We don't need all the bells and whistles of the new ones, which they're getting harder to buy. Lane bought all of them off of a website for, I think it was $75. The next time we went to buy them, they were up to $105. I think they realized we were in the market. And so they're becoming a hot item because there's just not very many out there left. Apple's quit manufacturing that model. And so at some point, we're probably going to have to jump to a little fancier model. And again, we're going to have some things that we don't necessarily need in the classroom that we can maybe find some use for later on down the road. But I've really talked to our engineer about talking to his people about just selling that one piece we need. I said, you sell me that for 30, we'll buy hundreds of them, but can't get them to do it yet.
Happy birthday, Carl. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it was like birthday or Christmas. But I mean, you know, when I first saw it, or he first said, I want an Apple TV. I'm thinking, no. And then I found out what it was.
People thought we were going to carry it.
Yeah.
They're like, where's my Apple TV? And I'm like, it's right here.
It's a real letdown. Once we get it up and running, they're excited, but it's kind of a letdown when you walk in. They're thinking, TV and TV.
I did have a question on the classroom app. Does that enable the teacher to see simultaneously what is on all of the students?
Yep, they see it live. They can see it a couple ways. They can see just the kid's iPad and just below it'll say what app they're in. They can actually turn it to where they can actually see a very tiny, albeit, image of what they're actually seeing on their screen. It's not live as in second, it takes a second for it to update all the time. The key feature for them is as they look at that, and I have a set and I should have brought it, but when they're in there, they see all their kids, just little icons of all their kids' iPads. But across the top, it dynamically changes their groups and groups them by what app they're in. So if there's 30 kids in the class, they should all 30 be in the Show Me app. That's the app we're all working in. If all of a sudden a kid jumps out and goes over here and plays this game, he's going to jump into a group by himself. And the teacher sees that immediately, that he's over here. And he should be over here. So I can click on that group, and I'll see Johnny there, and I can click on him and go, hey, you need to get back in the app, and actually push him back to where he needs to be. So that's a nice feature. They're also like it when they're all doing their own thing independently, and the teacher can kind of see what apps they're using and where they're all at. It's just a nice new feature they have.
But they can pretty easily monitor, even if they have different groups and different apps at the same time.
Yep.
With that.
Yeah.
That seems to really help a lot of the potential negatives that we might experience being able to monitor.
Yeah.
Is that available for home purchase?
No, unfortunately, no. It's tied specifically. We're in this whole pilot on our side of things. We're piloting a new management piece. If you don't know, we bought Mobile Iron with the high school. There's a company called Jam that offers a product. They do very similar things, but they're very Apple focused. That's all they support. So they have a different take on how to manage things than Mobile Iron does, which supports all kinds of devices. So in that, we're getting to try out some things that we wanted to try on our end as far as management. We manage all the apps on the devices and push them out as the teachers send me an email and say, hey, I want this app, and we push it out, and it just shows up on the kids' devices. So we're getting to try some fun things that we think are fun on our side. I think they're fun. Lane doesn't think they're much fun, but the classroom app is part of being able to try that system out.
I think that's great, but I think it'd be really helpful at the high school once they're able to do that.
One thing we have to keep in mind, remember, we're just running pilots, so we talk nice to companies and say, hey, we're running a pilot, and we're thinking about getting your thing. Will you give us? And they're like, oh, yeah, if you're thinking about it. It's really expensive, what he's talking about, Jam. It's very high dollar. So it's great to run it in a pilot. Can we afford it? I don't know. I mean, that's a reality. We need Jam, which is like our Mobile Iron, but it's much more expensive than Mobile Iron. And the other thing is, we have 5,000 iPads right now in this district, a little over 5,000. They're all running Mobile Iron. If we choose to make the change, we've got to wipe all those and start over. It doesn't sound like a lot to wipe an iPad, but it is.
Yeah.
So we're testing it, and we like it. Now we're trying to figure out, how can we afford it, and how can we maybe ease into it? Maybe on a staggered schedule or something. Okay, so this year's seniors are leaving, they'll be off online, maybe next year's incoming freshmen, maybe we could move to JAM. And now we gotta pay for 2 systems. If the kids keep things on iPads to walk around and say, we're just gonna wipe them all, we got a lot of logistics to think about on
We
that.
did that one time with Bull Iron for unrelated reasons, and the kids call it the big swipe, and they still talk about it, because it took us 3 weeks to bring them all in and actually see their devices, because they had to touch every device, so that was just at the high school, which is 2,000 devices, and it's hilarious,
They call it the big swipe. Yeah,
the big swipe, and
big
so,
swipe.
which
And it
isn't
was-
even remotely close to what we do.
No, it wasn't.
And so it would take time to transition everybody over, but there are some
But we do
definite
like it.
benefits.
We do, you cannot deny that that is a huge enhancement for teachers. I think the other thing that's huge is untethering our teachers. And when you put that Apple TV, small Apple TV app, it allows teachers to walk around, and the proximity piece is huge. Because if you're up here all the time with your computer, you're trying to show something, you're not out with the kids seeing what they're doing. I think, and I've shared this with a couple of people, I think Apple TVs will replace smart boards. Because you no longer need to be up at the front of that classroom. I can do anything, I can show anything from my iPad, but more importantly, our kids can show anything from their iPads. So a smart board now runs about $1,400, an Apple TV is around $100. So I think it's gonna totally eliminate smart boards, I think it's better.
We could buy 3 iPads and an Apple TV for every classroom, for every board we buy.
Yeah.
So, which is only one thing in one classroom, so
If I can keep finding them for that price, I gotta do some more shopping.
it's coming to an end real fast.
Yeah.
Any
we're
other
trying to
questions
love
on?
We still have to keep the classroom size small enough that there's space between the desks for the teacher to be able to navigate.
That's true.
That's true.
That's true. I'm not gonna read to you all of the pros and cons, because I think you're capable of reading for yourself. We had our teachers gather up for a professional development on Thursday. Anyway, one day I said, hey, I need your help. I gotta go talk to the board on Monday. I need you to tell me pros and cons. I thought it was gonna be about a 30-minute discussion. It went for 2 hours. These people are so excited and so invigorated, and they said, please don't take our stuff away from us, please. So I assured them I wouldn't. I don't know if I will or not, but I told them I wouldn't, because I didn't want it to be a hostile crowd. The pros are, and I get to go, we go to these classrooms every day. Student engagement is off the charts amazing. I was in Sarah Dobrinsky's room last week, and she was doing a math lesson, and the kids were doing it on their iPads. She's teaching Engage New York. So I'm just watching, and they finished, and the kid goes, can we do another one? And I was like, no, you cannot. It's like that in every classroom, guys. These kids are engaged, even those kids who are discipline problems. They are refocusing. There are 2 boys, I won't even say what school they're in, that are known to have challenges, present challenges. There have been no discipline referrals since we rolled out this pilot in those classrooms. These teachers, that's amazing, guys. They're finding their kids are more self-directed in their learning. No longer do they have to wait to go to the teacher and go, I need an answer right now, I need your help. They have all the answers at their fingertips. And they're helping each other. They're teaching each other ways to use the iPad. 2 of our teachers in the pilots were pretty hesitant, a little bit skeptical. They were like, I don't know, because I'm not very techy. And we wanted those people in the pilot. And the kids help them. So it's a role reversal, and she said what it does for our students to be able to become the teacher. Differentiated instruction, very easy now. Used to take a lot of time to get all those different materials ready for differentiating, you know the word. Now, and they say now it's not an issue. They were hesitant about the time it was going to take to prepare a lesson with an iPad versus the traditional way. And they found that that's not the case, that it's very easy. Now, in our SITS model, 3 teachers, 3 sets of kids. So they start in Bernfin's room, and they pick up their iPad there, they carry it all day. And then they go to Graham's room, and then they go to Commonwealth's. The next 2 set of kids that come into each of those teachers' rooms don't have iPads. So these teachers are preparing 2 sets of lesson plans and are not complaining because they've so bought into, they want to see the difference between the 2. And there is the issue about kids
The
like,
kids are complaining.
I know, we get the phone call, how can I get my kid in that classroom? Well, money, that would help, but why can't everybody do it? It's money. It's plain and simple, money. And I think that's probably one of our biggest cons. We're seeing tremendous positives, guys. But we don't know where we're gonna go with this because we don't know if we have money. And how can we roll it out? If you said, what is the best model? The 2 that are not being real successful is the VDI because it's buggy. That's that virtual desktop. We don't know a lot about it, and I think it's going to be price prohibitive. I don't think it's so cheap. You have to buy a license for every computer. We are repurposing old laptops, but I think the license is going to kill us, the licensing cost. And the second one is the BYOD model because it's ever-changing. So, for instance, that teacher will have to call me and go, hey, I got another kid that doesn't have a device, can you bring something over? And the other thing that she's run into is kids come in with a multitude of devices. And we like Shobi. Shobi is a workflow piece. The teacher puts an assignment in Shobi, the kids get it out of Shobi and work on it, they hand it back in, the teacher can grade it. Android devices don't run Shobi. Okay, so now she has 7 kids that can't even get that. So now she has to take them over and put them over on a computer. She says it's very hard to find something that will work on all devices. And this is a really techie teacher, guys. And I asked, do you think other people could run a BYOD? And she said, no. She said it's hard, and it takes a lot of time. I have to go find things that don't care what kind of device they run on. And then it's the constant challenge of the kid didn't bring it, the kid did bring it, the kid brought it, then broke it, then brought another one, by the way, and broke it the next day, and the parents have had enough. So those are challenges that she's working through. She's very positive. She's doing a great job. But it's just not, it's not working as smoothly, as seamlessly as some of our other. I think the other cons they talked about, kids can't take them home. When you change everything so that you have a digital curriculum, that all of your stuff is on this one device, and then they put them back in the cart on the way out, they have to print off paper then to send home homework. And they think that all but one, the first grade teacher doesn't probably think our kids would be ready to take them home. The others all say, I think our kids can handle it. And as I researched and talked to other districts, a lot of districts are letting them take them home at 3rd grade. So if that's the route we want to go, we have to change our thinking to say, yeah, we have to let you take them home.
One comment we got back on that was, when you decide that your homework is important to be electronic, that's the age you have to let them take it home. So 3rd grade is when you need to start sending homework home, and and you're gonna do it electronic, then you gotta let them take it home in 3rd grade. You can't tell teachers, we need to send homework home, and they do all this work to make it digital in the classroom, and then we're printing out paperwork and all those things. And that district told us we had to make a decision, when is it appropriate for our homework to go home electronically and those types of things, and that's the age we had to send home. And that particular district was 3rd grade. That they said it's important, and that's when we're going to start sending. So I'm sure there's a lot of training and things that have to go through with that and to get them to that point. But
Well, one of the things our teachers have talked about is you have to train your kids. They said the training actually took a little longer than they anticipated. But you have to lay that groundwork out about how to take care of things, how to use the systems. The VDI was especially time-consuming, but they just took extra time. They're also, by the way, teaching digital citizenship to these kiddos. And we're piloting, it's called Common Sense Media. We're working on that. And I'll throw out more numbers, Tim. Get ready. I actually remember this number. Sixth grade math at Bernadine Sitz, which is one of our pilots, it's a sixth grade classroom. 233,519 copies made by those sixth grade math teachers for Engage New York. Our math teacher in the pilot, since January, guess how many copies? Because she's doing it all digitally. It's all being done through Shelby.
Everything but the exit ticket. 'Cause they can't-
Oh, they do have to
How
have
do
that.
they do homework if they don't take that home? They have,
That's
But
the,
that's not true, she
That's
does the
for
exit
something.
ticket, but her modules and all of that, 0. So, exit tickets, you have to, I had to learn the verbiage too when I started on this classroom. Exit ticket is their homework sheet, it's one piece of paper. Before, they printed off all those modules, they would send them off to the copier, they'd come back in boxes, the kids would have them. So the only thing now she is doing is the exit ticket. That's pretty huge change. I think, and I don't remember the numbers as well from Jenny Barker, but that's equally,
we got numbers
Like
from all
similar.
the schools and there's money to be saved there by moving things that way.
Can you translate that number of papers to dollars?
$1,541, I think, KJ.
Very good.
I think that's right. That's a quick overview. We gave you the handout. We're going to keep moving forward on this. We are surveying the parent-teacher conferences this week. We've created a survey. The teachers contributed to that. So we'll be getting feedback from all the parents of kids that are in the pilot. We have surveyed our pilot teachers. We're going to have that beginning, and then we'll have an end one, and probably at some point we're going to survey the students. By the way, the teachers hang with us one day a month. We do one whole PD day a month. And then Casey and I try to get into their classrooms, everybody's classroom, at least once a week, just to watch or support. But we're always on call, and they're very good about calling. They're very good about it.
We are also, in the district, at least in this building, we're running a system for our department called Track It to do, submit cases and those kinds of things when we have technology problems. And we made these teachers, we said, you have to do everything in Track It so that we can track all the problems that we add up to. And so we're getting that data as well, just as another piece that will have a record of all the things. A lot of it is apps, I can tell you, that they want, and so a lot of our Track It cases so far have been that. But we wanted to be able to at least see that trend of what did these classrooms need in that semester.
you talk about coming back in April.
I think in April,
I think we're on the board.
I think it's the end of April.
and we'll have our teachers here with us then, kind of give you an overview of our pilots.
I guess, you know, what I'd really be interested in is the cost of all this. You know, in the plan, if we have, say we have the cost to do it, are we gonna do one school? Are we gonna do one grade in each school? I mean,
That's what we're trying
because
to
I want
do.
all schools to be fair, where it's all about all kids. And I don't want one school that we get all new computers, and kid on the west side, we don't have no money for you guys, you weren't in the pilot program. So I'd really like to look at the cost of all this stuff that you guys are testing, and then tell me how we're gonna pay for it, and how we're gonna bring it in to our school district, so that all kids are learning the same and equally. But the big thing is, how do we pay for it?
Right.
That's
You
what
know,
we're
it's all
doing.
great.
It is great.
You know, it'd be great if every kid had one of those airplanes that was flying, a drone, but, you know, what's the cost?
Well, and that, certainly we're gonna look at that. Remember that we have, every year we have seniors who leave the high school, so we can repurpose iPads. And a lot of the iPads we're using right now in our pilot are simply repurposed. We had our early grads from December, which is how we were able to put iPads in these pilots. One of the things I harp on the most is being equitable. I want equitability.
Well, that's what I want.
No, and it's huge on my list. It's one of the reasons we did an iPad initiative at the high school. All kids, equitable. That's important. What I'm seeing in BYOD, it's not equitable. You have Casey, who brings his little flip phone. And then you we have to determine is where would we start it? So, and I'll just give you, this is, don't even quote me on this, because it's, say, we're gonna do it in all fourth grades. It has to be all fourth grades. Or if we're gonna start it in all fifth grades, it's all fifth grades. It's not just at Stones, or just at Sid's, or just at Georgia Matthews. And that is, and I can speak for Roxy on this as well. She is committed to that. So it's not gonna be the haves and have-nots.
Well,
But we
that's
do
good.
have to figure it out, but we gotta have money. But you guys said, we wanna look at K-8 technology. That was my directive. And that's what we're doing.
Well, and I agree with you
So, I
100%.
mean,
I just
So
want
I
to
am
make sure
with you on,
that,
I am so
that
with you
if
on
we're
that.
doing it, all kids are equal.
Not a
And
pilot.
all schools are equal.
Pilots, you know, it's, I said, sometimes it's good to be in our pilots and sometimes not, because you have to work more, you have to do more professional development, you have to have more self-directed learning, you're gonna change your entire classroom, I'm gonna send you into chaos for a while, but what can we get out of it? So, when those kids look and say, hey, they got to have the pilot and we didn't, it's a give and take as well. So, but that's what we're looking at, Tim, and I'm with you.
Well,
I'm
and
not
that's the
too
only way
sure.
I can support
Yeah.
it is that, you know, all fourth graders, all fifth graders,
Yep.
all schools, you know, we have the money, we'll do all schools, okay, then let's do that. But,
Right.
you know, it's good to hear, that's why I asked when you're coming back, you know, it's good to hear from the teachers too, but I need that third piece of paper that, hey, here's the cost, and this is what it's gonna cost the taxpayer.
Well, that's our reality.
So-
That cost is our reality. And I know that, you know, I'm reading the papers too. And it's kind of scary. And so are we doing all of this for naught? And I don't say it like that. I don't think it's for naught, because I think we're learning tons. But if there's no money, then where do we go?
Is E-rate funding still available for things like this?
No, E-rate won't pay for this. E-rate is for connectivity.
Okay.
The internet, the wireless, that backbone, that unfun stuff that, but you have to have, E-rate won't pay for any of this.
What about, we've got a very supportive community and a lot of business partners that have been willing to step up in the past. My concern is sustainability, but if we could get, to look at some business partners to help, you know, be technology sponsors for buildings or grades or something like that, is that something we could do, we could look into? Is that a possibility, Dr. Farrell?
Sure. You know, I think what Lainey and Casey and Roxy and their group is really gonna do is, at this point, is really trying to figure out what's the best approach, independent of the money. Kinda like when you make your Christmas list,
Yeah.
and you got a lot of things on the list, but then when you actually go to start really planning what Christmas is gonna look like, you don't get to get everything on the list. But you wanna start out with what you think is important, and that's, I think, kind of the area that they're at. There may be a lot of options, there may be ways to repurpose some of the dollars we have.
Sure.
There may be other dollars that would be available, partnership opportunities. But I think they're still kind of at the stage where, you know, they're wanting to find out what works, what makes a difference in learning with kids, what really helps engage, what gets us better results. And it is kind of a chicken and the egg, what comes first, because you can't, doesn't do any good to have it if you can't afford it. But we do need to know those things, and so the next step that I think after they put that together, our challenge will be to look and say, what can we afford? And we may not be able to afford all of it. So we may have to slow down how we go about implementing it. This isn't the, and I think, well, I know the board understands it, but charging our technology group with looking into this is not a trivial exercise. It's a pretty major undertaking, and they're spending a lot of time and energy, and I think they're doing a great job. We had originally hoped to have them come, I think, in December, just to give kind of an update of what they were thinking, but they got bumped because something else came up, and so we wanted you to know they are making progress. It's April or May, we hope to have them back and to start filling in some of the pieces, but this is not a trivial exercise. The needs are different, they're looking at a lot of different variables. probably all have to work on together, and then massage that into, what's the best plan going forward? Because, this did start out of a little bit of a concern that some of our buildings are spending more of their money and getting more technology than what others are getting. And so how can we make all that work and make sure we're investing the taxpayers' dollars as effectively as possible, and we're getting the maximum learning benefits for our kids? And, answer that overnight. It's, I think, as these folks stated, we've done a very good job. We've got great results at the high school, but this is different. It's not the same model. It's not the same approach. What works there doesn't necessarily work in other places. So,
one of the things that our teachers asked me to share with you is they would love to have you come visit. They said, when we have them come, they gotta come see this. And I said, I would relay that, and so that's, you just call me, and we can get you in, but you gotta see it, because it's pretty amazing.
Will their next presentation be after, I think April 7th is when the general session is done, so we might have a clue what we're looking at next year?
yeah, we'll look. I can't
I don't
remember.
remember
And
what it
what we've
was.
got is just kind of tentative. We may need to adjust it based on their progress, or, based on the fact that we're here at the end of February, and originally we hoped to have them a little earlier. We want to give them enough time that, they're ready to give you more meaningful information. So, it won't be before probably the end of April.
Well, stay in Laney Land and enjoy this time.
It is,
Dreaming.
I have to tell you, sometimes you get so caught up in your office and paperwork and E-rate, and then we started these pilots right out of the gates this semester, and now we're back in the classrooms and we're watching this happen, and I am loving it. And I get to just escape and get out to the class. That's really bright.
Our teachers are doing a good job.
They're doing an amazing
And
job.
thank you for picking not necessarily cherry picking, the tech savvy teachers. I like that you pick some teachers
One
that
was
are
really hesitant. And you know what?
awesome.
It still
Kudos,
is.
kudos to her
she's
and
still-
to
okay,
you.
she's doing great. I
Good,
said,
that's what we need to hear, because anybody can do this, but you have to get over yourself and
Yeah.
learn that you
And
can.
actually, in our first professional development, she teaches math, and one of our others is a math at the similar grade levels. And he's like, oh, I've done that already, let me show you. And they worked independently by themselves while we were doing other stuff. They're like, we're gonna work on this, and we're like, go at it. And he helped her get everything transferred, and so there's a lot of collaboration to get them where she's at. She's making changes all the time.
Well, if we need to go back to California, I think Laura and Jean
Let's wait
would
till
be
the new
happy to
building
do that
opens.
again, so, after the flooding's over. of
Yeah,
course.
let's wait after that.
And not homecoming weekend, so we get more time.
Yeah.
There you go, there you go. But really, I would be happy to take you to any of those classrooms. You would just love watching what's going on there. So,
How long did the pilots last? When did you actually start them? Did they all start on the same?
they'll start the same day, right,
I think
this semester.
we tried to have them all in their rooms on
We had
January
all their
9th,
stuff.
and then we had our first training with them on that
When will
Wednesday.
they actually end? Will they end at the same time or
End
go
of
through the
school.
end of
End
the
of
school
school
year?
year. End of
Okay.
school.
Yeah, it'll run all year.
And is there a reason that there weren't a seventh or eighth grade
Yeah,
classroom?
neither one of those principals responded. We didn't get any response from them.
Do you feel that maybe the lessons that you've learned at the lower grades will be applicable at the middle school level too, or?
I think they'll probably have to blend a little bit between the two,
Yeah.
between the high school and what we learn here and what we learn. I think that's kind of a gray area where they're probably gonna have to do a little bit of both. Where they're gonna have to treat them a little more like they're older kids that manage the devices that way. And they'll have to do some things that we do with younger kids to kind, cause they're just not there yet. So probably gonna have to blend those models at that grade level.
That would have been really nice to have had some experience at that grade level. So.
We have a couple of classrooms up there that we wrote grants for that have iPads in those classrooms. It's science classrooms, and so all the kids have daily use of those. So we kind of see, it's not the true one-to-one, the kid isn't carrying them from class to class. But we have several classrooms that do have their own.
So you have a little bit
We do.
of experience at that grade.
Yeah, and that's been
Both of
going
those
on for
schools have
several
quite a few.
years.
Both those schools have quite a few iPads in their building as well, that they're in cart models, so they're not getting a true one-to-one, but there's enough experience in the classroom there that you can kind of gauge that.
So we're not leaving out that,
No.
that level.
Yeah, and it's notable, I think, that they, one of the two approached us about basically bring your own device
Cell
approach.
phone access.
And then, you know, and I think we preserved for now the policy on phones, which we must have waived here, or it
We
doesn't
did it for
apply to.
BYOD. Those parents were sent letters. The teacher did a really great job, and the principal of communicating with those parents. The phones are not hooked up to cellular necessarily. They're not really being used as a phone. They're being used to access the internet.
It's just their device that they
That's what they
have
brought.
access to.
So just to do a site visit, do we go through you, or do we go through administration office, or how do we do that?
Why don't you just contact me,
Okay,
and then I'll be the person who will talk to the principal and the teacher and get whatever you want to say.
thanks, Lee.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
I think that's pretty exciting.
We do know you're doing a lot of extra work. We are so aware of that, which is why we wanted to know, get an update on what's going on, because we know you're working
Absolutely.
really hard.
Yep. My pleasure.
Well, that's pretty exciting. It's like a lot of things, so all you had is money.
Learning
Well,
time.
And time.
Data, I mean, they're pulling together data and perspective, and that's important too.
Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Chad, looks like we're moving on to the dome project.
Sweetness, speaking all this time. Do they get a picture of this, or they don't have that? Nobody had, I only got two extras there, sorry guys. Well, I met with Steve last week on a couple different things. We signed our contract 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, maybe now. I don't know, 4 weeks ago, it's been a while. But, we signed a contract for the dome. It takes 16 weeks to manufacture the dome. So, sometime in the spring, we'll hopefully be kicking up dirt here. We got a meeting tomorrow with the contractors to vote on which contractor we're gonna engage with. So we'll have interviews tomorrow at 2:30 and 3 o'clock. We'll know who our contractor will be, and then they'll start getting the works and getting the plans going and start producing, so. That's just one of our official goals was 900,000, we still gotta get to 1.1, so you talk about money, yeah, it's all about money, so, money, so. But today in talk with Steve, he said that it looks like we might have to adjust this site plan a little bit. Because if you look at that wing going out to the north, our building's gonna run right side by side there to the entrance, so we might need to adjust the building there to the east, going that way a little bit, right, Steve?
And Stuart Nelson is working with the WISE architect, so Stuart will be reviewing the plans, and I think we've got him, is that right, we've got him all the information at this point.
I don't think he's got all of it yet, they're still working on it, because the dome guy hasn't released all that stuff yet to us.
Okay,
So we're still waiting for some stuff in the dome.
okay, so, but we are in the process of getting Stuart that information, so he can kind of look that over kind of from our behalf. You'll notice on the site plan, there's the dome building and then a little building out kind of to the west. That's the Y. The parking lot, the city has agreed to pay that cost, and then the road that goes from the parking lot and comes around to
The backside of Cage there.
Henderson Street, that, the parking lot and the road will be bid as separate alternates or priced as separate alternates with the contractor, so the road would be our expense if we choose to do that, and we would use that for bus traffic for KH. But you notice the road, the way it's drawn in this plan, and the little additional building
To the east.
to the east of the dome, would interfere with our ability to expand KH in the future. And we don't want to do that. We want to preserve that capability that if we ever needed to expand that building. So we'll be looking at those kind of things, what changes we can make capability, because I don't think we wanna, we wouldn't have any plans right now to do that, but 10 years from now, we may be different. And so, there's some things like that that we'll get the benefit of having our architect look at that, and I appreciate Chad working with us on that. I think that'll be helpful.
Where did you say the funding for the parking lot would come from?
The city, Garden City, it's kind of been a long-standing agreement that they would make that a hard surface parking lot. And there's the two
Since we're
soccer,
coming in, they gotta do it. I mean, they can't just.
well, the two soccer fields, we have an agreement with the rec through the city right now to provide those, and they had agreed to do a hard service parking lot. We've kind of put it off, knowing that this project was coming, and
So you're gonna keep that agreement with the rec and the soccer field?
right, now the kicker's gonna be that soccer field there in the northeast corner, depending on how far we have to move the building.
Right.
And so, again,
In
we're
the
gonna have to
street
rely
back.
on our architect, but we own a lot of property there at that whole block basically is ours, so it may become necessary to adjust where that soccer field is. Hopefully, we don't have to, but we gotta rely on the architects to.
But then you said the funding for the road would be school.
Right, that would have to come out of our capital outlay funding, and that was, we'll look at that. We'll never probably have a time to do it that's cheaper than when it's done with this part of the project, because the contractor will be there doing work already. But that'll be a decision the board will have to make at the point we get the pricing on it, is do we wanna do that? It won't have any effect on the dome project. It really is I guess an improvement and enhancement that former principals at KH and Dr. Atha and Mr. Cobby have looked at, and our transportation director, just to improve our bus traffic. Right now, our buses pull in off of Fleming, and they have to go into that parking lot that's drawn in there north of the building and turn around in order to leave. This way, we wouldn't have buses turning around in that parking lot. And I'm not sure if they can turn without having to.
They do a 37
stop
point turn.
and back up, yeah.
No, it's not a 3-point turn, it's a 37 points.
I was like, what?
No, it's pretty tight back there. I mean, my kids rode the bus to KH and there, and they said they just sit there and knew where to get around, so. This will be a whole better setup too for you guys as well. And like Steve said, if you do expand, I mean, the gym space is gonna be there for you guys to use the gym space for 3 gyms. We have to, they needed an old fat blind crippled guy to rep basketball for a tournament 2 weeks ago. And they're using 3 different gyms, and they said I could hear, what's his name, Dinkle, the scorekeeper. Brian Dinkle, I think it's Brian. He was telling the guys, well, next year, everything's gonna be up a cage, because we're gonna have the dome right there, we're gonna be able to play everything right there. We gotta work that out with him still, but, but he was telling that to the guys, so, the coaches from other teams, so. But yeah, we'll make these adjustments, we'll work with Stuart, and, come back, and then Steve says that you guys would like to see a final plan once we're ready to dig up the dirt and bring it back to you guys. Any questions, anybody else?
I do have a question, on the parking lot. I know there's 2 entrances there that will go out onto Mary Street, and the speed limit along there, I think, is 40 miles an hour. Is there any thought to trying to encourage that to be reduced a little bit? Because normally our students from the school would cross at the light, but if there's sort of an easy path to kind of cross right in the middle of the street, they might do that more often. It just seems like maybe with KH and then the high school right after that, it would be helpful, I guess, to the safety of the students to have that be a little lower than it
I can
is.
visit with Sam and tell him.
And I don't know if that's really even needed for safety, but it seems a little fast for that kind of a.
Yeah,
area.
I can talk to the city. I have another traffic issue that I'm gonna be visiting with them about at one of the other schools, so. I mean, they do traffic studies, and I believe that came about as a result of advice from the city. One of those is primarily an entrance and one's primarily an exit.
Well, I think that's great, I just worry about the kids walking, because there's quite a few walkers in that area.
There is a crossing light, I think at the corner of Henderson and Mary, but I don't know that that would help that much.
Yeah, just, you know how kids will just follow the path of the parking lot right across the street. So, but anyway, that would be one thing to maybe think about. Looks good though.
I did visit Wichita, I was in Wichita, so we could have a state baseball meeting there for baseball. So I went to Riverside Tennis, they got a dome over there, tennis, I don't know if some of you been to Wichita. So I went there, take some pictures, and it's been up for 10 years. So it's pretty nice, Riverside Tennis, and I asked them, they leave it up year round too, so. If you're ever in Wichita, you can kinda get an idea and go by there. It's down there. Over there by the river and downtown,